All right, what's up, my friends? Welcome. Streets of New Capenna, complete set review. Every card, limited, constructed. We're going over all of them. We did white, we did blue. You missed those, are on YouTube. Go watch them, right? What are you doing here? If it's first time, hit that follow button. YouTube folks love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Do all the buttons and all the things. Support me. I got a kid coming, all right? You got to support me, all right? Hit those freaking buttons. Hit them twice if you can. Hit them twice. We're on black now. We have new awards, Best in Show, Sleeper, Trap card, and our Bombin Common. We're opening up with our first card here, an Angel of Suffering. Mythic, 5-mana angel. It's a nightmare angel. 5/3 flyer for 5. If damage would be dealt to you, prevent that damage and mill twice that many cards. Twice that many is a lot. So, assume that every game you have 50 cards in your deck-ish. And by turn, whatever, 3 or 4, usually like 45 cards-ish by the time it's going to matter. So, we'll say 50 for math. So, you double it. So it's like 25 cards. 25 cards, 20 life. You're not really gaining much here on straight flat value. Where it's not like you're all of a sudden having a whole huge life buffer. That being said, if you're playing graveyard deck and you want cards in the graveyard, sure. But they can also just not attack you. So this card seems pretty unexciting to me. The body is not very durable. It's a 5/3. Your opponent gets to choose if they want to mill you or not, and vice versa. They can just kill it. All in all, I think this card is pretty unexciting. As far as trying to use it in an unfair capacity, milling yourself with your own damage, like that shadow style, 5 mana is too much. If it costs 1 or 2, maybe. All in all, though, I think this card's pretty much a miss. Could be fun to play this card in a Battle Wits deck or something like that. I got so many cards, you can't kill me. But all in all, not very exciting. Not very exciting. And then in Limited, it's funny. Could end up being a downside in Limited rather than an upside. So, very strange card that could easily backfire. All in all, not too impressed. Not too impressed. Not too impressed. Up next is Body Launderer. Another Mythic. Just bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. 4 mana for a 3/3 Death Touch, Ogre Rogue. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Body Launderer connives. Once again, connive is the ability where you loot, you draw a card, discard a card. If the card you discarded was not a land, you put a +1/+1 counter on whatever connived. So, whenever a token, non-token dies, you connive. Whenever this dies, you return another target non-rogue creature with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it can't return itself, which is important. This is a super value card for sure. If you're playing kind of sacrificey stuff, you can sacrifice this one thing, get this other thing back, which is kind of cool. You're conniving and filling the graveyard. When it dies, you return another thing. The problem is it's a 4-drop. And I feel like these kind of cards are usually 3-drops. So while it does have the potential to kind of make some pretty good value here, even just playing it, blocking, dying, and returning a 3-drop is kind of cool. All in all, I think at 4 mana, this card is just not good enough for constructed. I just don't think it really gets there. In Limited, this card's phenomenal. Just a phenomenal Limited card. But I think this card it's just missing a little bit of either extra value or rate, raw stats to be really good in constructed. So I think for the most part, this is a missing constructed. I think it's a very good Limited card. It's a cool card. It's a pretty fun card, but I think overall, not super great. Not super great. Up next is Cemetery Tampering. 3 mana for an enchantment. This is the black Hideaway enchantment. Hideaway means you take the top 5 cards, pick one, put it face down under this, meet the condition, play it for free. At the end of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. Then if there are 20 or more cards in your graveyard, you may cast the card without paying its mana cost for free. The problem with the Hideaway cards is, when you think about the Hideaway things, you're like, I'll get an Emrakul, I'll get a Grizzlebrand, I'll play something pretty crazy. That's not easy to do. If you are playing some sort of cool Reanimator deck, maybe with Lorehold and stuff like that, and you're already wanting to mill, and this can also be a payoff for later in the game too, that's kind of cool. And at 3 mana, this card's definitely playable. The first 2 Hideaway enchantments we saw both cost 5, probably too much. But at 3, this is a reasonable enough graveyard enabler with a little bit of upside that it could see play for sure. But it is slow. It is definitely slow, has no immediate effect the turn you play it, and usually you don't want your enablers to cost 3, want them to cost 2. So overall, it's a cool card. It's a fun build-aroundy card. I don't think it's quite there. And then in Limited, you can't really afford to mill 3 every turn. Limited, like, you're going to deck yourself. So I think in Limited, this card's a little iffy, too. Cool card. Pretty fun card. I do love graveyard stuff. But all in all, I think not really quite there. Not really quite there. Next card is Corrupt Court Official. 2 things about this card. Number 1 is it's a Portal 3 Kingdoms reprint. I know, right? You don't see that very often. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And so you can bring your Portal 3 Kingdoms versions, white borders and all, and play them in Standard. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Then the second thing is, we were just spoiled by Plague Beetle. Of course, in Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty, Plague Beetle was actually really, really good in Limited. It was the artifacts creature with the exact same text. The problem is that was very contextual. Ravenous Rats is not a particularly great Magic card. But in Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty, being an artifact mattered a lot. And then there were ninjas in a set to bounce it back and play it again super easily. So this set lacks ninjas and has no synergy with the typing on the card. It's not a citizen. It's only an advisor. So all in all, this card is going to be okay. The plus side is it is sacrifice fodder for your casualty effects, which is pretty good. So if you're looking for things sacrifice, this card definitely fits the bill for that. But all in all, aside from that, it's not really accomplishing multiple tasks like the Beetle was in Kamigawa. So solid card. Definitely a limited, kind of like filler card for your decks that want to sacrifice it. Not necessarily great otherwise, but good in the casualty decks. Good in the casualty decks. Crooked Custodian. 2 mana for a 3/2 comes in tapped. If you're an aggro limited deck, this card is reasonable. Don't underestimate the drawback coming in tapped. It is a pretty bad drawback, but on turn 2, it's not nearly as bad. It still trades with 2/2s, and 2 drops, so it's not like incredible, but it's a solid aggro 2-drop for your draft deck. It's a solid aggro 2-drop. Next card is Cut Off the Prophets. Black X for a sorcery. Casualty 3. So as you cast a spell, you may sacrifice a creature power 3 or greater. If you do, copy the spell. I don't know if you want to copy this spell. It's pretty freaking painful. So draw X, lose X. So say we pay X is 3. We sacrifice a creature. Now we're taking 6 and drawing 6. There's diminishing returns on this effect for sure. And sacrificing a 3-power or more creature is also pretty scary. All in all, I think this card's pretty bad. Mind Spring, just like black X, draw X is not really good enough. Losing the life kind of sucks. I just don't really think you're ever wanting to casualty this. If it's an instant, I agree. You could definitely be a little better because you can sacrifice things that might be dying. But all in all, pretty unimpressive. If you want to sacrifice things and draw cards, just play Deadly Dispute. And then in Limited, it's fine. It's fine. Just draw 3, lose 3 is fine. Limited, it's not great, but it's all right. It's all right. Cutthroat Contender. 1-drop, Vampire Warrior. 1/1. Pay 1 life. Gets +2/+1. Only once per turn. A solid aggro 1-drop. The ability to make it a 2/1 is pretty good. It's cheap. It's okay. It's not great. It's not a particularly powerful card. It's a kind of card that could see play in Constructed just because, it's a 2/1 for 1, which is fine. But all in all, just an okay 1-drop. Nothing too crazy. No great synergies. Just okay. A deal gone bad. Uh-oh. 3 mana for an instant. -3/-3, and then mill 3 cards. I imagine you want to mill yourself a lot of the time. There are some good graveyard things. Not a lot, though. There are some graveyard things. Not that many. Last Gasp for 4 is a passable limited card. It is not super exciting. 4 is a lot for only -3/-3. So while you do want kill spells in your limited deck, this one is not great. And I don't think the mill is worth that much. So this is kind of the kind of card where you're like, well, I don't have any kill spells. I got to have something. And this card fits the bill, but it's not great. It's not great. There's a mosquito in my room. I got it. It's gross. It's dead now, though. It's dead now. It does kill through shield counters, which is kind of nice. But all in all, it's playable, but not super exciting. Demon's Due. 4 mana for an instant. Scry 2, draw 2, lose 2. This card is not particularly great. We have a Read the Bones here at instant. We've had this before. I think it's the exact card, right? And losing life on your card draw spell at limited is tough. Magic is a very on-the-board format. So if you're spending mana to not affect the board and take damage, you risk falling behind. But it's an instant. Scrying is kind of nice also. It's just okay. Not great. Some decks might want it, but overall, these cards like this tend to be overrated. Not particularly exciting. Dig at the Body. 3 mana for an instant. Casualty 1. Mill 2 cards. Then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Kind of cool. Kind of cool in that this is a potential card advantage. But if you're selecting a 1/1, you know, it's alright. At 3 mana, it's not super exciting. You can sack creature that's about to die, which is kind of cool. And you also may return the creature that you sacrificed. So a little value there also. But 3 mana for a Gravediggery effect is just not super great. It's okay. If your deck's grindy, sure, but not super exciting. Not super exciting. Up next is Dust Mangler. This is a weird one. We have a 7 mana 5/4, which is not exactly a great rate. As an additional cost to play this card, sack a creature, discard a card, or pay 4 life. Those are all pretty hefty costs. Hard to discard a land of this because it costs 7 mana. Don't necessarily want to sacrifice a creature and don't want to pay 4 life. When it ETBs, your opponent sacks a creature, discards a card, and loses 4 life. That's pretty good. That is a very powerful effect. But a 5/4 for 7 that asks for more than just 7 mana is a lot. So this card worries me a bit. I'm not sure it's good enough. At this stage in the game, your opponent can usually afford to sacrifice a bad creature. They might not even have any cards in their hand anyway. And then the 4 life part is pretty good. But all in all, I think this card is pretty underwhelming. If you're desperate for a curve topper, sure. But 7's a lot. 7's a lot. Up next is Extract the Truth. 2 mana for a sorcery. Choose one. Target opponent reveals their hand. Choose creature, enchantment, or planeswalker, and they discard that card. Or target player sacrifices a enchantment. This card's good. This card's like actively good. Black often can't kill enchantments. This card does that. And then 2 mana for a mostly check for traps kind of card is not bad either. This is more of a sideboard card against enchantments, stuff like that. You might want to remove. But all in all, this is reasonable. This is a reasonable card. This is not an insanely good card. This is the kind of card where it's a tool that exists in the format. It's reasonably costed, and if you leave this effect, it's there for you, and it's reasonably costed, which is great. So, solid card. Wouldn't play it in limited, but as constructed goes, this is a great one to have in the back of your toolbox. Not always going to need it, but when you do need it, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Fake your own death. Yeah, sure. Fake your own death. Got it. 2 mana for an instant. +2/+2/+2/+0. When it dies, bring it back and make a treasure. We see this card basically every set. It's okay. It's not great. It's better if you have ETB abilities. Nothing new. Just a passable limited trick. Nothing's too exciting. Up next is Girder Goons. 5 mana for a 4/4 Ogre Warrior. When it dies, make it 2/2. Has the Blitz ability, and the Blitz ability is the Jund ability. Blitz is a cost you can pay to cast a spell. If you cast it with the Blitz cost, it gains haste, and it gains, when it dies, draw a card. At the end of turn, you got to sacrifice it. So basically, you get a cantrip Ball Lightning for the Blitz effect. So, 4 mana here is a 4/4 that attacks, draws a card, and makes a 2/2 on the way out. This card's solid. This card's solid, honestly. A 4/4 for 5 is not super great, but it's card advantage. The Blitz ability here is reasonable. And it's important to note how Blitz plays with the other mechanics here, because if you're able to Blitz and then sacrifice it to a casualty ability, that's really good. That's really, really good. And don't underestimate the card draw here. This card replaces itself, which is very, very good. Which is very, very good. So, solid limited card for sure. Solid limited card for sure. And Blitz is good. Blitz is good. Does play well with Feign Death also. Fake your own death. Sorry. That is pretty cool. Up next is Graveyard Shift. 5 mana, Zombify. Has Flash if you have 5 or more mana values of cards in your graveyard. This is sort of like the new Delirium in the set, where if you have 5 or more mana values in your graveyard, you get to get a bonus effect. It's okay. 5 mana Zombify is not particularly great. If it has Flash, you can at least ambush maybe and go for a cool block. But getting 5 different mana values is pretty tough also. So, all in all, pretty unexciting card. Pretty unexciting card. Up next is Grizzly Sigil. Our best in show. Do not underestimate this card. This card is good. This card is good. Grizzly Sigil is it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words, so we'll break it down. 1 black sorcery. That's sorcery? That was instant. Not bad. Still good. Still good, I think. That's a lot worse as a sorcery. I thought it was an instant. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Casualty 1. So sacrifice a creature, power 1 a raider, copy this spell. Choose target creature or planeswalker. If it was dealt non-combat damage this turn, it deals 3 and you gain 3.
Oh, it's Lightning Helix! Oh my god!
Otherwise, it deals 1 damage to it and you gain 1 life. So it's kind of written backwards. Basically, at face value, this deals 1 damage and you gain 1 life to a creature or planeswalker. If it's already taken non-combat damage, you deal 3 and gain 3. So you can casualty it, target the same thing twice. Now you're dealing 4 and gaining 4. That's really good. So it's very, very similar in a lot of ways to Voltage Surge. Again, I actually thought this was an instant when I chose Best in Show. So it is definitely worse than I thought. Because I thought it was basically like a Voltage Surge that was kind of a little better than Voltage Surge. So as a sorcery, it is a lot worse. Full disclosure, I did not realize that when I went over my cards. So sure. So it's still good. It's not as good as I thought it was. But either way, similar to Voltage Surge, right? You sacrifice your small thing, you deal 4 to kill a big creature or planeswalker, and gaining 4 is huge. Gaining 4 is definitely huge. So it triggers itself. Basically, it's 1 mana, sack a creature, deal 4 to something, and gain 4 life, which is good. Again, not being an instant is pretty bad. I don't know if we're gonna. We'll leave it as is for now, I guess. But that's a caveat that I did not realize. It does break shields also. But yeah. In your sacrificing deck, this card does seem pretty sweet. It seems comparable to Voltage Surge. Maybe it's worse because of the not instant part. But all right, sure. All right. Hi, I'm Jim. Welcome to the set review. You try looking through 300 cards at once. All right. All right. Leave me alone. I'm trying my best.
Would it help if I got out and pushed?
I'm trying my best. Anyway. Let's Shipment. Black 3 sorcery. Casualty 3. Anything that has casualty more than 1 needs to be looked at with a grain of salt because you can't sacrifice eye twitch, shambling gas, tokens, etc., etc. So hugely higher cost. So casualty 3 is a lot. It's Demonic Tutor. So this card can be double Demonic Tutor at the cost of a good creature. This card blows. 5 mana for Demonic Tutor is unheard of. And then copying it's a huge problem as well. I think this card's unplayable in almost every capacity. This card is terrible. Up next is Incriminate Tomato for a sorcery. Choose 2 creatures controlled by the same player. They sacrifice 1 of them. The card is it's fine. This is a weird variation on the Edict effect where they get the choice. But if they have like a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4, and you choose a 2/2 and the 3 and the 4/4, it kills a 3/3. That's not bad. So it's a reasonable removal spell, unlimited. Of course, you are choosing. So if they have a lot of big creatures or a lot of good creatures, this is definitely reasonable. It's not great. It's not amazing, but it's solid. I think it's a solid card limited. It's going to be it's hard to parse how this card's going to play out because it is so weird. I haven't really seen a card like this before, but I think it's pretty good. A lot better than the usual Edict. They have to have 2 creatures, so that is important. But again, if they have a couple 4/4s and it kills a 4/4, that's good. Join the Maestros. 5 mana sorcery, make a 4/3 black ogre token. Casualty 2. So once again, 2 is infinitely more than casualty 1, but upgrading your bear into a 4/3 is pretty solid. And 5 mana for a 4/3 is also kind of reasonable. So this card seems okay. At casualty 1, this card's probably one of the best black common. At 2, it's not nearly as good. So this card is it's all right. I think it's an okay limited card. Barring that you have things sacrifice that cost 2. Up next is Maestros Initiate. Our Bombin Common. This is the card that I think makes Connive actively good. 3 mana for a 3/1 is whatever. It's fine. You can play it. It trades with stuff. That's reasonable on the front side. But the real draw here is, like I was saying earlier, Connive is the ability where you loot, and if you discard a non-creature card, a non-land card, your creature gets a bonus. The problem is in Limited, you don't want to discard your spells. You want to discard your lands. Looting is good in Limited because you stop its flood protection. So you don't want to discard cards that are actively good. Obviously, it's your spells. This card, however, is a card you actively want to discard because it's good in the graveyard. That makes your Connive stuff good. And then in the graveyard, we have this flashback ability where you can draw 2, discard 1, and discard a land there. So in the late game, this is very, very close to draw 2 for 5 mana out of the graveyard, which is unbelievably good. So this card is just great to cast. It's great to Connive. You can casualty it. It's the kind of one of the few cards you want to actively casualty. And then just playing the card straight up is also good. I think this is the best black common. If I had to fire up an early thing, I know Murder's in a set and Murder is great, but if you've been paying attention to the last few Limited sets, typically you want the creature that draws more than one card more than a one-shot removal spell. One-shot removal is good, but often not as important as a card that can produce more than one card worth of value. And this card can easily be a 3-for-1. Easily. As well as being a great synergy piece as well. Card's awesome. Take this card highly. Think this card's really, really good. Really, really, really good. So that's our Bombin Common for black. Constructed, no. But in Limited, phenomenally good card. Phenomenally good card. Very much, much, much better than it looks. I promise you. Promise you. Best in show, I'd be wrong. This one's definitely not wrong. This is definitely the best black common. Next is Midnight Assassin. 3 mana for a 1/2 flying death touch. It's alright. It's alright. It's your kind of typical, like, okay defensive card. Which is fine. Fine draft card if you're defensive. Murder. And Murder's good. If you're playing Limited, it's a kill spell. It's probably a first pick. Again, I think it's worse than the card we just talked about as like the best black common, but it's probably the second best black common. Still very, very good. Still very, very good. Instant, it's cheap, kills anything. It's great. It's great. Night Clubber. Get it? Get it? Get. Black 1 for a 2/2. When it ETBs, creatures your opponent's control get -1/-1. That's a good card. That's a good card. So you have the Chain Whirler effect here of any X1 dies. But also, it just shrinks their team, making your attacks better there also. So this card's solid. This card's solid. Yeah, it should have been Night Clubber, like I'm a knight, like a white knight or a black knight for the double pun. That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, super solid card. Super solid card. Again, shrinks your opponent's squad, kills X1s. You probably won't be blitzing this card too often, but you can. It's a cantrip, so the option is reasonable. Card's good. Good draft card. In constructed, possible if you're looking for like this -1/-1 effect, but fringe. But Limited, definitely. Up next is Rafine's Silencer. They meant it for a 1/1 human assassin. When it ETBs, Connive. Once again, draw a card, discard a non-land, it gets +1/+1 counter. When it dies, creature opponent controls gets -X end of turn, where X is the Silencer's power. This card's good. Super solid draft card. As long as you Connive a non-land, you get a 2/2 for 3. When it dies, -2/-2. Plays awesome with casualty. Plays fine straight up. Just like block their thing and shrink it, which is kind of cool. Card's good. Solid limited card. Revel Ruiner. We have a 4 mana 3/1 with Menace and Connive. So could be a 4/2 with Menace. That's still not that good. That's still just like, that's all right. It's fine. It's not great. It's just all right. So filler level 4-drop. Not super sad to play it, but it's all right. It's all right. Rogue's Gallery. Obviously very fun art here and fun flavor. 3 mana for a sorcery. For each color, return up to 1 target creature card of that color from your graveyard to your hand. And there isn't a lot of treasure stuff in this set. So 5-color soup might be possible in draft. If this returns 3 things, it's pretty good. But this is the kind of card where, like, yeah, the ceiling is return 5 creatures. But how often is that going to happen? If this returns 2 things, I think your floor is mostly return 2 things. And that's just a okay limited card that some decks want and some decks don't. So if you're in a really grindy deck where double raise that is fine, sure, that's cool. And the ceiling is obviously a little bit higher as well. If you return 3, absolutely having a good time. More than 3 is just gravy. So Solid card. Solid card. Sanguine Spy. Sanguine Spy. It's our sleeper card. Our sleeper card. There's a lot going on here. A lot of words on this card. 3 mana for a 2/3 menace lifelink, which is a solid stat line. All things considered, a solid stat line. Pay 1, sack creature, look top card of your library, and put that card in your graveyard. So basically pay 1, sack creature, and surveil. And surveilling is obviously very powerful, both to smooth your draws as well as to fill your graveyard. And then at the beginning of your end step, if there are 5 more mana values among cards in your graveyard, you may pay 2 life if you do draw a card. That's good. And the fact that it's your end step is very good too, because you can trigger it immediately. So that third ability there is not going to trigger that often, but I think that the card is solid enough as is if you're playing kind of sacrificing stuff like that. It gets a little life, it attacks, it can block. That if you do hit the bottom part, you're super, super happy. If you don't, the card's still just solid. So I think this is an outside chance for Constructed as a sleeper. And Limited, the card's phenomenal, obviously. But a Constructed, I think this card definitely has a chance. Definitely has a chance. Also, a Vampire and a Rogue, which might matter. But if it wasn't pay 1, absolutely, this card would be great. But Wizards is also very, 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 very careful about that. The free sacrifice outlets for all the aristocrat decks, stuff like that. So, card's solid. Card's solid. Possible sleeper. I like it. I like it. I think obviously great limited card. Like first pickable limited card. Up next is Shadow of Mortality. Death Shadow. This ain't.
It's a trap.
This card sucks. Obviously, people love Death Shadow. It's a very popular card in Modern. Just a cool card in general. But this card is terrible compared to Death Shadow. So, 15 mana for a 7/7. And then it costs less for your life total. So, if you're at 7 life, this costs black. Black for a 7/7, 7 life or less. The problem is multifaceted with this card. So, if you're at 10, uncastable for the most part. So, it's a 5 mana card. That's terrible. Black is tough as well. And then a 7/7 just isn't really that big, all things considered. Part of what makes Shadow really, really good is it can be a 10/10. And Shadow can put you in a spot where your Shadow's a 6/6. If they attack you, you're going to go down to 2 and attack them back for 11, which is insane also. So, sizing-wise, this card's not good enough. Life total-wise, in Modern, you just play Shadow. And in Standard, there isn't really a good way to make this cost less. And it was already scored with the Skyclave's legal. That card's still legal, So, I think this card's pretty bad. There aren't enough good ways to control your life total. And then I think the most important part about this card is that it costs 15. Now, there's a card called Calibrated Blast in Modern. I played it my cool stuff video coming up in a little bit. Wants more 15 drops. So, for that alone, this card will see play in Modern a little bit. But all in all, this card is pretty bad. I doubt this card will see much play. Played straight up. Card's just not exciting. Card's not that exciting. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. That's a trap card. That's a trap card. Moving on to Shakedown Heavy. We get a 3 mana 6/4 Menace. Over attacks, defending player may have you draw a card. If you do, untap it, move from combat. This card's not bad. Honestly, this card's not bad. So, if this had the clause of like beginning of combat, they can make you draw a card, tap this, and it couldn't block, then okay. That's not so great because you can't defend either. The fact this card defends also, though, is pretty good. Like, say you're playing against mono green, right? Just play this card on turn 3. They can attack into it? Sure. Attack into it. See what happens, And the fact that they can turn around and attack is pretty awesome as well. Drawing cards is pretty cool. This card's solid. This card's really good. It's not quite Rotting Regisaur or something like that, but this card's good. It's got Menace also. It's hard to block. I think great limited card. Like, phenomenal limited card. Just on sizing alone. And then in Constructed, I think definitely possibly playable. Cool card. Possible sleeper kind of card. I like it a lot. Again, if it was beginning of combat, you can draw a card, tap it. It sucks. I think it's bad. Because it untaps the block again, it still affects the board. Your opponent can't completely nullify it. Card's great. Card's good. Up next is Tavern Swindler. Kind of a weird reprint here. 2 mana for a bear. Pay 3 life, flip a coin. If you win the flip, gain 6 life. There's almost no life gain synergy in this set. This feels like a flavor reprint rather than like a useful reprint. I believe the set this was originally in had some life gain stuff in it. So like, even though your EV here is a wash, where you'll gain 3 life on average, the life gain trigger was worth it. This set doesn't really have that. So if this is mostly just like a weird bear, I mean, if you're unlucky, sure, I guess, if you feel unlucky, but, you know, not super great. Tenacious Underdog is another card that could have gotten a sleeper reward here. Alex card, 2 mana for a 3/2 human warrior. Solid card. It's possible that Best in Show should go to this card and not the card I said, because I didn't realize it was a sorcery, but whatever. All right, I'm not perfect. 2 mana for a 3/2. Has the Blitz ability. Pay 4 mana, pay 2 life. And again, Blitz means that you can play it, it gains haste, it dies at the end of turn, and when it dies, you draw a card. But the important part here is you can Blitz this bad boy from the graveyard. And it does not exile. This is not flashback. This is not unearth. You can Blitz this thing every single turn. Now, is that good? It's all right. You know, it's good against control decks. Is it good against decks that are attacking you? Not as much. But the fact it's a 3/2 that can block, because usually cards like this can't, like the can't block clause, is pretty good as well. So you can play this early, trade it off, then later in the game, pay 4 life, pay 4 mana and 2 life, haste it, deal for 3, draw a card, put it back in the bin. Pretty cool. So I think that the floor here is pretty high, and the ceiling's also pretty high. Card's good. It's a human. You can sacrifice synergy, stuff like that, or whatever. It's kind of cool as well. Card's good. Card's good. I like it a lot. We'll give it the spiritual Best in Show because I'm a moron who can't read cards. Is that cool? Is that fair? Is that all right? Is that a good compromise? Is that a good compromise? Dude works out, too. Dude works out. I mean, seriously. What? Next card. Vampire Scrivener. 5 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Whenever you gain life during your turn, put a counter on it. Whenever you lose life during your turn, put a counter on it. I think this is the only life gain payoff in the set. So if you have a couple copies of Tavern Swindler, go nuts, I guess. Go nuts. But yeah, it's an okay limited card. This has the problem, as we often talk about in limited. In limited, your creature has to affect the board when it comes into play, and scaling is good. This card scales well, but this card does not affect the board well. 2/2 flyer for 4 blocks horribly. If you need a way to win the game, this card can do it, but it is very, very clunky, and there isn't a lot of support for what this card's trying to do. Overall, pretty unimpressive, I think. Pretty unimpressive. That's whack. We got 4 mana instant. Sorry, it's a sorcery. Why do I think everything's an instant? Huh? Why do I think everything's an instant? I thought this card was also an instant. It's not. It's not. 4 mana for a sorcery. -4, -4 to end of turn. And then cost 3 less if it's a white creature. So, in Constructed, this card is much worse than Raven Beetlement. Because if you're sideboarding it in, you want to have an instant, not a sorcery. Easy game. In Limited, this card's great. This card would be playable without the sideboard text. 4 mana for -4, -4. Even at sorcery speed, it's still a very good kill spell in Limited. Is it incredible? No, it's solid. And of course, if you ever get to cast it for 1, it's phenomenal. And don't forget, it's a multi-card set. So there's going to be a lot of gold cards that are also white. 1 mana to kill them is great. Very, very good, very good draft card here. And then Constructed, as long as Raven Beetlement is legal, this card will not be good. Once that card rotates, it is pretty good. But yeah, that's whack for you. So once again, to recap, we're going to do our recap at the end here. Our Best in Show is Grizzly Sigil with an asterisk. Our sleeper card is Sanguine Spy. Our trap card is Shadow Mortality. And our Bombin Common is Maestros Initiate. Definitely the best black common. Not even close. Red comes next. YouTube folks, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how wrong I am about that sigil card, all right? You're an idiot, Jim. I want to hear it. Give me all what you got, all right? Comment, like, subscribe, support the stream, support me, everything. Anything you miss on YouTube. Red's coming next. Let's rock and roll.